In this video today, I'm going to show you how to be way more productive, how to 10x the quality of decisions you make, how to live a healthier life, how to make more money, and how to make more friends and contacts and connections as well. And it all comes down to actually being able to get the most important thing right, and that is being able to sleep better. So in this video today, I'm going to bring you some of the most shocking research on the benefits of sleep and what can happen if you actually miss out on it and the quality of your sleep goes down. I'm also going to be telling you what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, what mistakes I make, what has helped me make more money in my business, what has helped me live a happier life as well. So let's get straight into it. Now, for myself, for a long time, I mistakenly had a bit of this hustle mentality, this hustle culture about me, where I thought like the more hours I could fit into the day, the better things would be, because the more stuff I'd actually be able to do. And I've got to be honest, I was very, very, very wrong. I went through a stage in life where I was working a full-time job, I was trying to build a business, I was trying to maintain fitness as well. So I was getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning so I could go to the gym, to come home, to, sort my diet out and prep some food, to then go to work for 8 o'clock, to then get home at 6, to then start work on my business, to then work till 11 at night, to then chillax for the next hour. And I was having like 5 hours sleep. And I just thought that is the way that you should live life. And that is like the best thing that you can do to maximize the hours out of the day. I don't know if it was Gary Vee who kind of put that idea in my head, or if it just seemed that the people out there who got the most things seemed to be hustling the best. I'm not sure what it was. But after a while, I realized that that was not the way to go. And then the supporting research that's come out afterwards by a guy, a neuroscientist called Matthew Walker, who appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast, who explained that sleep is literally one of the best things that you could do. He explained that if we look here, sleep actually comes above diet and exercise. This is kind of like the triad of living a better life, of living a healthier life. But sleep even comes above diet and exercise. And the reason why is your willpower gets sapped if you don't sleep enough. So if you're not sleeping enough, you're likely to not follow a diet as well. You're likely not to be able to exert as much force or proactivity into a gym session as you were before. And then these two here, they come right above everything else. So Matthew Walker in his book said that sleep is probably one of those things which, if it wasn't like a requirement and everyone had to do it, it would probably be an illegal drug, because it's that powerful. And these are the different stages of sleep. And I kind of want to gloss over this because ultimately it's not really important to the message of what I'm going to tell you to do to increase your sleep, but it is quite interesting. So essentially we have different stages of sleep per night, and different stages help us with different things. So for instance, we have REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep. We have it in different parts of the night, and when we have it, we dream. But also when we have it as well, one of the actual benefits of it is that we learn basically what we have learned throughout the day. So for instance, let's just say I was boxing throughout the day. I'm new to boxing, I'm practicing and practicing. I practice for 2 hours in the day. I've never thrown a punch before in my life. What they've actually found with REM sleep is that it repeats the mental imagery in your mind and helps with learning. So if you were going to not get any REM sleep for whatever on the night that you've been, training boxing, and then went back to the boxing gym the next day, you would be right at the same place as you left the day before from the gym. But if you actually, did 2 hours of training the day before, learned all these brand new things, and then went to bed and got a full night's sleep, your learning will be accelerated between 30 to 40 times, which is why people say that if you cannot answer a problem, you should actually go home and sleep on it, because sleep actually provides the internal solutions to the problems that we currently have. So this is what typically your sleep looks like throughout the night. We actually have cycles of sleep. We don't just have, I'm going to have like non-REM sleep and then I'll move into REM sleep and then, move into deep sleep once per night. We actually come in and out of it, in and out of it, in and out of it. And each cycle is about 90 minutes long. And each human needs about 5 to 6 cycles a night to have a full night of recovery and a full night of sleep. And if you don't get that, these are some of the shocking things which can actually happen to you. Men, listen up, right? I know at the moment online, it's particularly big about, increasing testosterone. There's a lot of awareness around this. Men who sleep 5 to 6 hours a night will have a level of testosterone 6 to 10 years their senior. So if you're only getting 5 to 6 hours a night because you believe that it's, you're hitting your goals quicker, you are making better decisions, you have more time in the day, you're actually aging yourself prematurely. And what happens is when you have reduced testosterone, you, as a guy, there's all sorts of negative side effects, loss of libido, loss of muscle, loss of drive to actually do things, fatigue, depression, all sorts of things. So for guys in particular, you need to be sleeping at least 7 to 8 hours a night, 7 to 9 actually. So they found, and this is all in Matthew Walker's research in his book, Why We Sleep. But again, I recommend you watch the Joe Rogan podcast where he speaks for long form for 2 to 3 hours, and he just drops so much value. It's absolutely insane. So I've just picked some of the key points out of there to blow your mind about why you shouldn't be missing sleep. With 14 days straight of 6 hours sleep or less, your cognitive performance dives without any sign of leveling off. So you actually lose your ability to critically think as well as you did. If you were to take an IQ test, your IQ would actually be lower if you were to consistently get 6 hours a night sleep, which is kind of worrying because they measured the average sleep of the average adult throughout the US. And it was 6 hours and 30 minutes sleep a night on average, right? So that means 50% of the population are getting less than that, 50% are getting over. But in 1942, when they measured it previously, so 80 years ago, they found that people's sleep on average was 7.9 hours, right? So we have actually, for no reason other than we probably keep ourselves awake for longer these days, have started to really sacrifice sleep, which obviously isn't very good because it comes with all sorts of problems. After 20 hours of being awake, you are as physically and cognitively impaired as you would be if you were legally drunk. Think about that for a second. What is it like? Just a few units in the UK, you are basically not allowed to drive after you've had a few units of alcohol. You could also reach that same level of cognitive impairment if you just don't sleep for 20 hours. And we all have long days, right? Sometimes we can't get to bed at the times we need to. Every 30 seconds, there is a car accident linked to lack of sleep. If you're getting 6 hours of sleep or less, your time to physical exhaustion drops by up to 30%. Tell you a little story here. When I was a kid, I was a very active kid. I used to exercise all the time. I used to, honestly, I used to go to boxing 3 times a week. I used to weight train. I used to go running every night as well. But the crazy thing was my cardio never improved. My cardio sucked. I hated running. As soon as I used to go running, I used to be technically the person who exposed himself to the most amount of exercise in the entire room, whether it was going to the boxing club or whether I was going to the gym. As a 14, 15, 16-year-old, a healthy, fit 14, 15, and 16-year-old, I should have been able to blitz everyone in the room via cardio. Yet I couldn't. I sucked at it. But when I actually look back and I see this research here, I essentially did not get much sleep at all. I was a hyperactive kid. I used to not go to sleep till 1 in the morning, 1:30. I then used to have to get up for school at 7. And as a kid who's developing, who actually needs extra sleep than the typical human adult, that is exactly why I'd like to bet, in a way, why my cardio was terrible. Because they measured it and they said that your time to physical exhaustion drops by up to 30% if you're getting 6 hours or less of sleep a night. This is why when athletes go to different countries to compete in different time zones, they all have a real nightmare of trying to adjust to the jet lag over there, the hours difference, which is why often you see athletes go to the different country that they're going to compete in around about a month or so early, because it takes a while to adjust to the new time zone, and therefore it takes time for their sleep to actually adjust as well. So here's another few studies about why lack of sleep is the worst thing that you can do. One study looked at sleep-deprived individuals for one night of 4 hours of sleep. So they only got 4 hours of sleep. They experienced a 70% reduction in critical anti-cancer fighting cells, so natural killer cells. We all have cancer cells within our body, and what really prevents the formation of full-on cancer are these natural killer cells. So just think about that for a second. We all have these cancer cells going around our body, but when our natural killer cells start malfunctioning or maybe not working as best as possible, that is when the cancer actually grows. And if you are sleeping less than you need to sleep, you are essentially weakening your critical anti-cancer fighting cells. I think they're called T cells. Also, another study as well is daylight savings time. In the spring, when we lose an hour of sleep, we see a 24% increase in heart attacks. In the fall, when we gain an hour of sleep, there's a 21% decrease in heart attacks. So just 1 hour can increase the risk of a heart attack by 24%. That's nuts, right? Now, I hear what you're saying. Rob, what do we actually do about this? What can we actually change about this? Well, there's a ton of things, right? You can go to bed and focus on all these sleep hacks as much as you want about improving sleep quality, etc., etc. But the real hack comes from actually staying in bed a longer time. I have this thing called an Oura ring. I don't know if you can see it on my finger there. And what an Oura ring is, it's like an expensive piece of equipment. I got it a few years ago as like a Christmas present from a girlfriend. It's an expensive piece of equipment that measures your actual sleep. And from that, it gives you a few different scores. I'm gonna bring it up on my phone. The first score it gives you is like, what quality of sleep did you have? Like, what was the type of quality? Was it good quality? Was it poor quality? It scores it out of 100. And so let's have a look at my one yesterday, because my one today is not loaded yet. So for yesterday, you can see I got an 86 on my sleep quality score. I woke up at 7:15 and fell asleep at 10 to 11 at night. My resting heart rate was 48. That was a good night's sleep. But the great thing about this is if you actually click into I got home at the bottom, and then if you actually click into the sleep icon there, it tells you more about your sleep. It tells you how much specifically of, total sleep I had, efficiency of sleep, restfulness, REM stage. So you can see last night, I didn't really sleep I have that much REM sleep. So it could have been for multiple reasons, but generally, if you're having poor quality sleep, it's because I haven't stayed in bed the longest amount of time possible. So really, you should be setting up your environment. And this is difficult to do, particularly if you've got like a family or something like that, or kids. You should be setting up your environment so you can stay in bed the longest amount of time. If you set your alarm and you can see on your alarm that you're going to be waking up in 7 hours, think about it logically. You're probably not going to be able to get your 7 to 9 hours of sleep that night, because you're not going to fall asleep straight away. And when you might wake up in the middle of the night, and then at the end of the night, you might actually wake up a little bit before your alarm. So you want to account for these and actually give yourself a good amount of time in bed. Another option this gives you is it scores how ready you are for the day under this, it's called readiness score on Oura Ring. This isn't an advert for Oura Ring, by the way. I'm just telling you what I use and what works for me. And what readiness does is it measures like your resting heart rate. It measures like your heart rate variability, your body temperature. It takes into account your sleep score as well. And basically what it says is, if you slept well last night, sometimes you can sleep well, but still not have that good of a, things can still be pretty off. So it'll say, you're not that ready for today. I'm going to actually give you a sleep score of about 70. And then you will usually, I found this to be pretty damn accurate, because I know like actually a lot of NBA players now use Oura Ring as well. And I found it to be so accurate that if I feel terrible, like, you know, I feel like I haven't slept that well, even if I've been in bed a while, sometimes you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you're like, oh, I just can't be bothered with anything. Oura Ring picks up on it. I'll look at my readiness score and my readiness will be low. And it can be for a variety of different reasons, which I'm going to go into a little bit now. So that's tip number one, is to actually just stay in bed longer. Just try and get to bed a little bit earlier. Try and wake up a little bit later. Tip number two, have a routine. Our bodies are amazing, but also stupid as well. And that goes for our brain as well. So if, you know, we as human beings can go to bed at any time we want. We can, you know, wake up at any time we want, you know, if we have no obligations or whatever. But our body quickly gets into routines. It is a routine-driven machine. It likes to have its cup of coffee at the same time. It likes to have its lunch at the same time. It likes to, you know, go for a wee in the morning at the same time, right? It does everything in routine, but one thing as well that it likes to do in routine is also sleep and wake up at the same time. So it knows exactly when its window is to essentially get the most sleep. So if you go to bed at 11 p.m. weeknights, right, and you get up at 7 a.m., you know, throughout the week, Monday to Friday, and then at the weekend, every single weekend, you start going to bed at 2 a.m., and, you know, and then it gets back to Monday and suddenly you're going to bed at 11 p.m. again. This is where people get the complaint from that it's Sunday night, I can never sleep on Sunday night. I always sleep terribly on my first night of sleep. It's because your body has got out of routine. One of the best ways to actually increase sleep quality is to sleep in routine throughout the entire week. Now, I am human as well, guys. Like, honestly, sometimes I get to the weekend and I think, you know what, I want some time to myself now. I feel like I've been working all week and I feel like I, you know, just want to kind of zombie out and sit on the couch and watch some TV. I feel like, you know, I want to, yeah, I don't know, just go on my computer late at night or whatever. And it's hard to do. I'd say this is probably one of the hardest things to do because it actually requires conscious effort to stay in a routine. If you can stay in a routine, go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, regardless of it being like weekdays or regardless of it being weekends, if you do that and you manage to stay in bed a good amount of time, 90% of your sleep problems will be solved, honestly. I used to honestly believe I had insomnia when I was a youngster, a teenager, but really it was just because my sleep routine was all over the place. My body couldn't track when it needed to start getting tired. It couldn't track when it needed to start getting awake. So it just ended up all mixing up. Tip number 3, sleep in a pitch black environment. So melatonin in our brains gets produced when lights start to dim. So when we were all caveman, we used to sit outside, not have any artificial light or electricity or anything like that. Maybe we'd have like a fire and that. But basically, when the sun used to start setting, we used to start getting tired. And that was our cue to then go to bed and actually start our sleep routine. And the tiredness actually came from the production of melatonin, which essentially is a chemical that gets released in our head when lights start dimming, that lets our brain know it's time for sleep. But the problem is, in the world that we live in at the moment, we've got all sorts of bright artificial lights. We've got the street lamp coming in from our bedroom window when we're trying to sleep. We're watching TV at night, which is showing us all these massive blue lights, which is keeping the brain in a light, awake mood, right? So there's different lights on the spectrum. And the lower the Kelvin in them, the closer it is to red, and the more easier we will get to sleep. Because the blue light signifies, which is like some of the highest lights on the spectrum, signifies that it's actually daylight outside, right? So basically, what we want to do is have our bedrooms, our sleep environment, mimic that of real pitch black sleep environments, like old school, where light doesn't get through the window. I do this by having blackout curtains. I also have one of these sleep masks here. So I wear both. So does my girlfriend as well. So then we got the blackout curtains, and then we, put this over our heads. And this is actually a really great sleep mask because the band goes above and below my ears, so it doesn't like cut into my ears. It's very soft as well. So that helps with actual sleep quality. Getting to bed at night, we try and avoid big bright lights in our face. We dim all the lights at night. I've got a salt lamp right next to my bed, and that's what goes on as like the bedtime night lamp, which telling our brain that it's actually getting dark, which is telling our brain to start to wind down. Taking a step further as well, I have some blue light blocking glasses, and these blue light blocking glasses are probably some of the better ones I've tried. These are called Swannies blue light blocking glasses. They're actually more expensive than other ones. These are probably about like 60 to 70 pounds, depending on if you can find any discount codes for them. However, what I do is I put them on about an hour to an hour and 30 before I actually go to bed. And what happens is it blocks the majority of the blue light that's coming into my eyes. So even if there is street lamps on outside, even if I am staring at a screen or something like that, which I try not to do, but even if I am, it's blocking the light from it, the light which is telling me to wake up. And I've just put this on now. It is actually 1:30 in the afternoon. I'm staring, I've got a big bright light here, a soft light on my face. I've also got a big bright white screen, which you're currently looking at right now. And I can even feel my eyes resting a little bit. Even in the afternoon, like, whew, thank God that light is out from my eyes. So that stuff can't be good for you. But these, I've actually tracked it on my Oura Ring. The nights I wear these an hour and a half before I go to bed, I actually sleep much better. Tip number 5, avoid caffeine at least 12 hours before bed. So one of the things which I had no idea about, I used to drink like caffeine, coffee, Red Bulls up until, I don't know, like 4 in the afternoon or something like that. Then I always used to wonder why I couldn't sleep. When I worked in the hospitality and bar industry, sometimes I wouldn't be going to bed till 4 in the morning. Sometimes I'd be having a Red Bull at 11 at night, right? And I didn't realize until I watched this, or until I read Matthew Walker's book, that caffeine actually has a quarter life of 12 hours. So, to put that into context, if I go to bed at 11 at night, which is kind of the theme what I've said throughout this video, I'll go to bed at 11 at night, and I have my last coffee at 11 in the morning. When it gets to 11 at night, having a quarter life of caffeine 12 hours later essentially means just before I go to bed, I'm drinking a quarter of that coffee, right? Because it's got a quarter life. So after 12 hours, it still has the quarter life. My mind was blown. And suddenly I realized why, when I would go through periods of actually cutting out caffeine altogether, I actually felt a lot more recovered in the morning. And years after I actually stopped drinking caffeine at silly times, even when I just drink caffeine before sort of 12 noon, I would still feel better cutting out caffeine completely. And the reason why is, even though I think I'm doing a good job by drinking my last coffee at 11 in the morning, the caffeine is still in my system at a quarter of the strength as I'm going to bed at night. So pretty crazy. Avoid drinking caffeine. If you do need to drink it, have it in the morning to actually, power through, I don't know, a workout, or to actually wake you up, but then don't really drink any more after that. If you are still really, really, really tired, it's because you probably don't have something else on this list in place. All right. Avoid alcohol. The amazing thing about Oura is it knows exactly when I've had a drink of alcohol. Even if I've had half a beer 5 hours before I went to sleep, it still knows, right? And the reason why is to go to bed and to go to sleep and to have a good quality sleep, your body temperature needs to drop a few degrees. And I did not know this until I actually got my Oura Ring, but when you have a drink of alcohol, it warms your body up. So you have less of a good quality sleep. But not only that, sometimes you'll toss and turn and wake up. And the reason why is your body temperature's jacked. And even if I have half a beer 5 hours before I go to bed, I will look at my readiness the next day on my Oura, and it will tell me that I've not had a good quality sleep. It will tell me that I'm not that well recovered. Now, I'm not an angel, right? Sometimes I go out on weekends and I get absolutely obliterated with my friends, with my fiance. Life is supposed to be lived. But at the same time, like, if you can follow this principle 80% of the time, there's so many people I know who have a nightcap to go to sleep at night. Maybe they'll have to relax in the evening, they'll have like a beer, they'll have like a wine. I recommend you actually stop doing that because it doesn't help you sleep. It doesn't actually relax you. It's just an illusion. And thirdly as well, it doesn't reduce stress. Like, it actually increases stress. It increases stress on your body as well. Tip number 7, avoid large meals and beverages late at night. In general, you want to not eat 3 hours before you go to sleep. If you eat 3 hours before you go to sleep, it has the same effects of alcohol in that it heats your body up. Your digestion system is churning away trying to digest food, and you don't get as good quality sleep when you're trying to get to sleep. Beverages late at night as well. So let's just say water. I drink a lot of water, much more than the average person, because I also keep myself fit as well. But the downside of this is sometimes I find myself drinking water like half an hour before bed, gulping a pint down, right? Because that's just me. Now, the problem is with this is you have to get up in the middle of the night for a wee. And what happens is, from what I've seen on Oura Ring, is that if you get up in the middle of the night to pee, or even if you just wake up for some random reason, even if you sleep longer than you typically would, sleep for a much longer duration than you typically would on another night where you had unbroken sleep, the quality of sleep that you get from that night of broken sleep is much worse. So just try your best not to, gulp down pints of water before you go to bed. Some people say that green tea is great for going to sleep. I always find that I have a green tea 2 hours before going to bed, a decaf one, of course, and I am instantly needing to pee in the middle of the night. So it doesn't really work for me. Get the right room temperature. This right here is a frigging giant one. Getting the right room temperature is one of the best things that you can do. Now, apparently, the scientific best room temperature to go to sleep in is 18 degrees or, 66 if you are in the US or, internationally, right? So, our bodies find it much easier to go to sleep in cold temperatures than they do to go to sleep in warmer temperatures, which is why it's easier to sleep in winter, harder to sleep in summer. And the reason why is your core body temperature needs to lower by a few degrees before you actually go to sleep. It's just one of those things which need to happen. You can actually hack this a little bit by taking a bath an hour before you go to bed, a warm bath, and what happens is it heats your body temperature up in the bath. And when you get out of the bath and dry yourself down, it dumps the heat out of your body. It also warms your hands and feet, which Matthew Walker says in his book that you actually need to sleep at a higher quality, right? So it'll help you get to sleep quicker. I've tried this, I've got to be honest. Sleeping in an ice cold bed for me is what really does the trick for me. I am a hot sleeper by nature. I was one of those kids where, I would go out in the middle of winter when I was younger in a t-shirt, right? Until my mum told me off, basically. And the reason, I don't know, some people just have different core temperatures. Like, I needed the room to be pretty damn cold for me to be able to sleep good. Whereas, my fiance, she needs the room to be a bit warmer for her to sleep good. So just judge it on your own sort of behavior, judge it on what you kind of know works best for you as well. But in general, sleeping in a cooler room does the job. Tip number 9, don't take naps after 3 p.m. A lot of people make the mistake of, super tired because they've not been following any of these tips 1 to 8. They don't get a good quality sleep. They don't sleep long enough. And then what happens is they're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to nap in the afternoon to make up for some of the sleep that I lost at night. Now, short naps before 3 p.m. are pretty good. I have to force myself to kind of follow these rules. And even then, I follow them about 80% of the time. But what I will tell you is once I do actually follow these rules, once I do actually nail them down and start getting into the routine of doing all these things, I'm a much happier person. I'm a much more productive person. I can handle stress a lot more effective. I can talk a lot better. I can critically think in my business and make money easier, communicate ideas better, right? And I could just speak to people in a lot better, and I feel a lot better as well. So you can see the absolute polar opposites about what happens if you don't sleep very well, what happens if you sleep really well. And there's such an end on the spectrum that not sleeping well literally lowers your immune system and lowers your immune cancer fighting cells. It literally lowers your testosterone. It literally lowers your cardio by 30%. just if you sleep 6 hours. That's just 6 hours, right? That's not even, 4 hours or 5 hours. It has all these crazy effects. I even seen another study where it was like they measured physicians and surgeons' ability to make mistakes, and their ability to make mistakes was like 170% of what it typically was if they had under 7 hours sleep. So for people who are going into surgeries and their surgeon ends up making a mistake, it's not to scare anyone because we're all going to need surgery at some stage, right? They were saying that basically always ask your surgeon, you probably don't want to do this, but like always ask your surgeon how much sleep they've had, right? Because if they've had under 7 hours, they're at a much higher chance of actually making a mistake, which is frigging scary, man, considering like what sort of shifts they've been put on, what sort of demanding work the surgeons are always going through, right? So it's quite clear, if you sleep in bed a lot longer, in a cold environment, and cutting out light fairly early on, keeping a routine, making sure you're not putting anything crazy in your body, you're going to be a much better person. You're going to be able to, actually do some of the things that you actually want to do, as opposed to, getting ill, lowering your immune system, not being productive, making mistakes all the time. All right. So I thought this was something that was really interesting. This channel is all about, it's all about business, but it's also about, health, wealth, love, and happiness as well, and making sure that these kind of quadrants are all going as best they could. And one of the best things for health is actually nailing your sleep. So hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. Take care.